It's the D.O. Show!
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the D Oaks Show. I'm your host, Darnell Oaks. I got a special guest, DeAndre, DJ Stocktman. Look, y'all, this one is special because DeAndre and I have some history. You know, back during his teenage years, I briefly coached DeAndre at St. Vincent Pallotti, and you know, we'll get into that a little bit later on. But awesome conversations and rides, early morning, late nights, as you know, brother. Man, DeAndre, 2016, 2017, Fairmont State finalist, right? We're talking about a standout combo guard. And you listening out there, you're watching, he's a free agent. He's a professional and a stand-up guy with great morals. So, you know, if you're listening out there and you need that combo guard, you know, here's your guy. Now, DeAndre, with those accolades, right? How, you know, because I seen the work ethic day one when you walked in the gym. I seen your peers go from goofing off to when you walked in the gym, it was a whole nother energy. So how did we get there? You know, take us back to, you know, the making of DeAndre DJ Stocktman. Where are you from?
All right, not a problem. And I just wanted to thank you again for allowing me to be on this platform. And you know, I appreciate your support and everything. We do go way back. But as far as the making of, you know, who I am, I was born in St. Joseph, Michigan, about 2 hours from Benton Harbor. Don't really remember much. Being a military kid, I've moved all my life. So after, you know, about 3 months of being there, we moved as a family to Naples, Italy. So I'm gonna give you the whole timeline of everything. Sure. You know, we moved there. We were there for 3 years. So I left there when I was 3, still too young to really remember anything. So didn't really get to experience Italy at that age. After that, through these moves, my dad has either, you know, made rank or gotten a new job. So, and that's why, you know, it's typical for military members to move every couple of years. So the next move for us was Virginia Beach, Virginia, which I was there for about 5 years. So this was about from, I want to say like pre-K to about third grade. Around that time is where you know, I kind of remember most of my adolescence picking up a basketball. I've had a basketball in my hand all my life, you know, since the ability that I could hold a basketball, you know, on the little Fisher Price goal and everything. But you know, yeah, for real. But you know, playing in a Boys and Girls Club, you know, as a typical kid, you know, just being competitive and playing basketball, staying active, playing other sports like, you know, soccer and baseball. Yeah. But, you know, basketball was always that true, you know, my true love and, you know, passion. So stayed there in Virginia for about 5 years. After that, we moved to Hawaii for 3 years. So I was there on the island of Oahu. It's where I don't know if from my people that know military history and everything, or just national history, used to live on the island where the Pearl Harbor attack happened, which started the World War II and everything. Okay. So I had the luxury of, you know, experiencing, you know, that little tourist attraction, but also, you know, just learning the history of the island in itself, because that's a whole different culture. So, you know, I was able to embrace that, continue basketball, obviously continued along the way. After about 3 years of that, so we're at the age of 11, I believe, just going into the age of 12, Moved to Washington State. Washington State, about 25 minutes outside of Seattle. I only spent about a year there. My dad ended up making officer rank at that point. So we made a quick move. And we were actually this I didn't tell you. So we were actually supposed to go to Italy right after the Washington move.
Okay.
And I'm getting a little personal, but it's not a problem.
It's all good.
You know,
right
something.
here on the show, brother.
So when my dad made officer, they have a thing called officer school.
Okay.
So he went to Rhode Island while my mom and I, waited for, him to complete that. That way we could all go to Italy together. And I think it was within his first or second day there, something happened to him. We don't know. We still don't know to this day if it was, if he had a seizure or he collapsed. So, after that, he had some testing done and everything. Meantime, my mom and I actually, we had to leave, obviously, Washington State. So we went down to Mississippi, where most of, my family on my mom's side resides at. So I was in Mississippi for a couple months, while my dad was at officer school, while we wait for that move. But then, that happened. He had to get some tests done and everything. And they classified it as a seizure. Like I said, we don't know to this day what happened, but that basically delayed our move to Italy. And I was in 8th grade, so about 13, 14 years old at the time. So in the meantime, we couldn't go to Italy because there weren't any neurosurgeons over there, and they didn't want something, to happen to my father. And, obviously they wouldn't be able to take care of him. So Italy, we weren't able to go at that time. So what we ended up doing was moving to Norfolk, Virginia, back to Virginia, for about a year and some change. So this is going into still 8th grade. I spent two months of 8th grade in Mississippi. Ended up going to school out there, finishing my 8th grade year at a local middle school, I should say.
Okay.
Finished that year off, still played basketball for the team, of course. 9th grade, I was actually homeschooled. So didn't play for any team, didn't play no AAU or anything. I did work out with the Boo Williams team. A lot of people know who Boo Williams
for sure.
They make it to the EYBL travel team and everything. So started working out with them, but the timing of it was, kind of late because we were getting ready to move again. And this time we were actually going to move to Italy. So
could I ask you something around that age, right? Like 9th grade, you probably about 14, somewhere along them lines. And you have a father that's Caucasian and an African-American mother, right?
Yes.
To that point, because when you're younger, like what was the difference, or did you even see a difference, or the way people view the family from when you were a younger kid? What was the perspective? And what was your perspective about like 14 when you became a teenager, a little bit, when you're seeing things differently? Could you kind of take us into that?
Somewhat now, and I'll tie it with now, because now situation, and even outside of what we're experiencing, just the location of where I'm at is a different scenario. But back then, being 14 and being younger, really the only experiences with that is that, being biracial, a lot of people, I guess they assume that, my father was Black or my mom was white. And they would ask, or they, or if my parents came by, my school back in 8th grade or whatever for something or whatever. Matter of fact, I took a tour before I even got into that school in 8th grade back in Virginia. And, a lot of students obviously saw me before I got there, and they knew of me. And they were like, "Oh, your dad's white, your mom's Black." It was just like, I was like, yeah, I mean, what's so special about it? And for me, I still kind of feel that way, because it's just like, we live in a world where, cultures, make ties. Like, I mean, you got different ethnicities, becoming couples with one another. So for me, like, especially at that age, I'm like, I mean, yeah, I mean, my dad's white. I mean, my mom's black. I mean, what's the what's the difference? Like, yeah. But now, you know, like right now I live in Memphis, like Tennessee. So, and Tennessee is a different environment. You know, a lot of, you know, racism and just, you know, you get those looks and everything when you're out in town and everything. And even, I mean, my parents have told me multiple times, you know, while I was in school, they were like, because that's when they first moved here. We used to live in Maryland before, and then when I transferred to Fairmont, which we'll get into, you know, they moved out here, you know, to be closer to family. Like I said, my mom's side of the family is around in the South. Okay. You know, and they would always kind of tell me, you know, when in the beginning they were like, yeah, you know, we would be out to dinner, and, you know, these couples would be looking at us, you know, particularly Caucasian couples, or even African-American couples, and they just kind of look at my parents and be like, you know, kind of give them looks like, you know, what y'all doing together and this and that. Yeah. So for me as a kid, I guess you could say I wasn't as cognizant of it and especially because it was just different times. It was just, you know, and then now, I mean, I don't have to say it. It's a mess right now. You know. Yeah, because that's
what I was going to ask you, like, far as, because I got a Caucasian buddy, and we was having this conversation, man, other day. Kind of remind me of one of them long ride conversations I would have with you. So we had a long ride, and we were just talking about Black Lives Matter, like just what it stands for. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it was a big question of what does it really stand for? And one of the things that I told him I didn't like was that whether you said Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Green Lives Matter, whatever, right? That automatically would rub somebody the wrong way of another color. And and you know, I always put myself in someone else's shoes, right? When things like this is going down. So if there was a movement, and I understand the purpose, like they're supposed to be behind it, but I felt like it could have been presented differently. Because if there's a movement called White Lives Matter, automatically Black people are going to take offense. Yep. Even if the movement is for a good cause of, you know, white people getting shot, you know, by cops, even if that's the purpose, right? That title, you get what I'm saying? No, absolutely. That title. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, being that, you know, if you went to go see your parents, you're looking at your dad as a white man, your mom as a Black woman. How do you view just the title, you know, Black Lives Matter? Like, how does that move you, or does it move you at all? What does it make you think?
I mean, for me, and I mean, I won't have the perfect answer because everybody has their own opinion.
Of course.
For me, the Black Lives Matter movement right now, I feel it's much more to it than just the saying, because what we're seeing right now in this world is that, I mean, Black lives don't seem to be appreciated enough, you know, and at this point, at this point, it's more about, you know, not even just racial equality, but human equality. You know, Black people, African-American people just aren't viewed the same. I mean, this is just, I mean, we know this, but it's just like, at this point, we're not, and I can say I accept my, you know, even though being biracial, I accept, you know, obviously I profile as an African-American male. If I can get pulled over, it don't matter. I got tattoos, I braids my hair, I profile as African-American. So, but it's like, at this point, we're not treated equally as humans, you know? You can, you know, as for me, like, and it's not me bragging on myself, I can be a stand-up guy, I can be very, you know, punctual, this and that, just have good qualities about myself. But, you know, and I'm not saying and I'm not going to go and say all cops are bad, but, you know, there's bad apples out there, and that one bad apple could see me as a threat for whatever reason, you know? And it's kind of messed up because, you know, you got other people in other races that could look just as bad or, you know, just as good as me. And they, you know, kind of skate, if that makes sense.
For sure.
And that's just, and that's not, I mean, and that's just reality. You know, I can't sugarcoat that. You know, that's the world we live in. It's cut and dry. So, but as far as the movement and everything, like I said, I think it's turning more into just human rights, like just human equality. Just Black people wanted to just say, like, look, like, you know, we've been dealing with, you know, the whole slavery thing has gone on for years and years, you know, decades, like a long time.
Yeah.
You know, and then the whole racial thing has been going on. It's never stopped. Racial inequality has never stopped. It's just now at this present day and age, it's really showing, and it's, you know, nationwide showing. And it's almost, and like I said, I mean, we're going to be cut and dry. It's almost as if, you know, the Caucasian race, and that's no disrespect to them. I love all people, but you see more and more Caucasian people, it's like they're being bold, and it's like on purpose because they know, you know, that they can get away with certain things that African Americans can't, you know? So, I mean, but I'm all for the movement. I do believe some people have taken it and twisted it the wrong way. And I agree with the whole title thing, how it can be rubbed off. You know, you hear people like, oh, Black Lives Matter, well, white lives matter too. But people don't need to look at it that type of way. It's like, look, like we all lives do matter. Black lives matter, white, you know, white, green, purple. But right now, the main thing is that Black lives are not appreciated. They're not treated. It's not equal compared to predominantly the Caucasian race. So, you know, people are fighting to make that stand. And it's, I mean, honestly, it's sad that people can't grasp it like that, but, you know, it's not for everybody to understand, but, yeah, you know, it is what it is. So, but I mean, like I said, I stand for it. You know, I'm being biracial, you know, I have a family that stands for it, my father, my mother, everybody, you know, but it's just the times we're in right now. It's tough. So.
Hey, and I want to say, man, I want to give a shout out to your parents because just battling through those things, you know, it's a proof like their love, you know, is stronger than anything, man. You know,
yeah.
they had to deal with people looking at them funny, you know, and they went ahead and built their family anyways, you know,
yeah.
grew a life together. So I definitely want to give a shout out to your parents, man, for making that happen.
We appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we were at you know, the teenage years pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
You were homeschooled.
Yes.
So after,
yes.
At what point where were you right before coming to Pilates? You were coming from Italy to the States when you end up at Pilates.
Yes. So after that year of homeschool, that's when we finally got the go to you know, make that move to Italy.
Okay.
So I spent my sophomore and junior year over there. You know, played basketball. Actually did a year of cross country, and was actually one of the top runners in Europe. That's something that a lot of people don't know about, but
wow,
it's a little secret thing that I like to, you know, I'll throw out there and brag about a little bit. But I was I actually could have gone somewhere with cross country, but it wasn't, you know, that wasn't something that, you know, I loved. That was just something that kept me in shape, you know, it was something different, you know, for the upcoming basketball season. So was able to I won a championship where it's called European, so kind of equivalent to a state championship, so to speak. You know, where all the teams in DOD or Department of Defense schools from all of Europe come together and come to Wiesbaden, Germany, and there's a major tournament there. So they have the whole game televised throughout the whole you know, overseas network and everything. So that was a cool experience. But I guess looking back on it now, and again, this was my decision to go to Italy, you know, sophomore and junior year. Right. So as sometimes I wouldn't say regret, but I do wish at some points that I could have been like, okay, maybe I should have stayed stateside, you know, and experienced high school basketball in the States, like how, you know, schools have state championships or, AAU, something that I didn't.
Was that the only reason?
I'm sorry?
Was that the only reason? Did you wish it was different? Was it because of the basketball piece?
Yeah. I would say, you know, being overseas for those 2 years it kind of hindered my recruitment because, again, like I said, you know, overseas it's hard to get exposure. I mean, you're over the water, you know, and college coaches aren't going to come fly over to watch you play unless you're just some standout guy or something that you're about to get drafted or something. But you know, I didn't have that luxury of playing AAU and being, being out there like that. So with that being said, that's what led me to Global Squad, which is the program that I mentioned to you about with John Alexander. You know, being able to take that first year, after my season, that sophomore year, and being able to come back to the States. I believe it was at Washington College that first year. So out there in Maryland. I'm not sure what part Washington College is in, but the camp was hosted there.
Yeah,
a lot of different internet.
Yeah, I was saying, I think that's county. Yeah.
Yeah. So just a lot of international guys like myself, you know, looking for an opportunity to, you know, showcase our skills because, you know, there's basketball players everywhere that got talent. And they just need that opportunity and chance. So I was able to, you know, do some great things. We played against Team Takeover in like our very first scrimmage. I think I had 16 points in that class. That team for Team Takeover, I mean, almost the whole starting lineup was, you know, mid to high major D1 kids, you know, and so for me, you know, that was my first kind of real, not to say the competition in, you know, Italy is lackluster, but it's not, you know, I'll be honest, it ain't the same as stateside basketball, you know, where you got top recruits that are, you know, getting these looks from these schools and everything. So that was kind of my first taste of like what stateside basketball was looking like. You know, I've been gone for a whole year and a half from, you know, not playing guys, you know, that really be hooping. So, but I mean, I took full advantage that whole summer, shot 52% out of the three, you know, hit some little records or whatever for the camp and everything. So that was a good experience.
DJ, let's not downplay that though. That's a single season record. Did you hit shooting 50% from the deep? So we can't downplay that, brother. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I did my thing with that. So went back to Italy after that. Camp was only about a month. So I'm preparing now for my junior. It's all good though. So preparing now for my junior year back in Italy. We actually made it back to the championship game, but we lost. So that was, I mean, in a nutshell, we'd had another great year and lost in the championship. And then at that point, I kind of was, you know, this is the point in your career as far as a high school kid, that, you know, like, hey, like, what's the next step? You know, you got 1 year left, you know, what you're going to do with college, this and that.
Yeah.
So, and we actually had another year of orders in Italy. So I could have stayed for my senior year. But I ended up having, you know, my dad and I sat down, we contacted a lot of people on the state side trying to find a program for me, you know, to be able to go to, you know, and showcase myself. That way I can at least, you know, get some type of scholarship, get some type of exposure.
Yeah.
And then that's what I got in contact with Coach Murphy. And I believe he had just got the job at Pilati because they had a coach previously. So he had just got the job. I forgot if it was, we got in touch through email. You know, we just talked back and forth. And then I just, you know, my mom and I actually made the move out to Maryland. And we actually left my dad behind for a little bit of time. You know, he was still on orders, so he couldn't leave Italy. You know, he still had a year left on his orders. So a lot of that senior season that I spent with you, he wasn't there, you know, and
right.
That was, you know, and Pilati was such a blessing for me as far as, you know, being able to experience true high school basketball, being at a program that values education, doesn't take any nonsense. And then just being pushed by, you, Coach Murphy, the whole coaching staff, that was a whole different experience for me, and it made me a better player, a better competitor, which I've always been a hard worker, hard competitor, but it was just, Coach Murphy got that, Marine mindset, being a former Marine. So he's intense, like he don't take nothing. So, that helped a lot with my development and everything. But on the side of it, it was tough, not having my dad, who's, it's like my biggest supporter. He's like my agent now, I like to say, but, he wasn't there, so, but yeah, I mean, we did what we did as St. Vincent Pallotti, and then from there, was trying to figure out where I was going to go to school. I had some looks from some schools, some D1 schools, were interested, but they wanted me to, look into the prep school route or to reclassify. And at the time, I wasn't familiar with any of that. Like, I was overseas for 2 years. I didn't know what, I wasn't really familiar with a prep school or, what reclassifying was. And then once we found out, I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to just, repeat high school another year, just to, but, and again, in turn, like, just like I said, with the whole Italy thing, maybe that's something I could have done or should have done, that could have brought me to a bigger school or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm here where I'm at now, and, everything happened for a reason. So
indeed, I want to ask you a question about the Italy thing before coming back for high school. Why come back to the States and not stay overseas and play professional? Because I know there's always the stories of say like Luka Doncic and a lot of these other guys, they played as kids professionally 3-4 years, and then they come over here to the States. They're already seasoned, they're already pros. So was that something you considered as a teenager while you was there before leaving?
Yeah, so for me, this was going into my junior year. I was actually playing for a little travel team out in town while I was there in Italy. Okay. And the team liked me a lot. They liked me a lot, obviously, and they they actually offered me a low division job. I think it was in the I think it's the C division, or it was like C class or something over in Italy for this specific club team. But I didn't take it because there was money involved. Then, with the NCAA rules and everything, had I taken that, I wouldn't have been able to go to college and this and that. And that kind of played a big role in it. Now, could I have played professionally, and not gotten paid? Probably. And I could have done that for experience, but that opportunity did come up, but we didn't take it specifically because of that. And I wanted to obviously, go to college, get an education, because, it's bigger than basketball. Basketball ain't gonna last forever. So, and of course I could always go back and get my education, but I would have just much rather just, gone straight to school, had that experience, playing for a school, playing for a college. So that was, one of my dreams, just like any other, young kid growing up. I want to play, of course, the NBA. We always say we want to play in the NBA, but, college is obviously that first step, and, playing for a college program is, a great experience,
Yeah. Take us into that, right?
Yeah.
Playing college, because you really worked your way up. So you didn't walk in the door at Fairmont State. There was a stop before Fairmont State, right? So take us into that and that whole experience.
Yeah. So like I previously mentioned with the whole, overseas thing, my recruitment wasn't, there or whatever. So since I didn't do the reclassify or prep school route, I was kind of limited on my options. So went to a couple like little exposure events. I think I went to a DMV Elite, one of those unsigned senior things. I had, I think, Marymount, and there was another school, Shepherd University. They were actually in Fairmont's conference. And I think Shepard was really close to signing me, but they ended up choosing another kid. He's actually we're really close now, but I used to be mad at him because he. It's funny how the world is so small, man. But I'll get into that. But Shepard ended up passing on me. So Marymount at the time was showing much more love, and Marymount is a D3 school right outside of DC. But being a D3 school, they don't offer athletic scholarship, just really financial aid. But, being a military kid, my dad had the GI Bill, which, pays for a student's, enrollment and, all of that stuff. So I basically, school was taken care of, education was taken care of. And I still got the opportunity to obviously play on the basketball team, do my thing there for 2 years. I think as a freshman, I averaged a little over 10 off the bench. And then I think I averaged 13, a little over 13 my sophomore year. Both seasons were, interesting. We didn't really go far, but, still, I got the opportunity to play college basketball. So it's something that, I'm still thankful for. And, I still made relationships with people that, will last a lifetime. So, but after that second year, I was really going through a lot mentally, and I felt that, I wasn't where I felt I belonged. If that makes sense. And that's not me saying that I'm better than anybody or anything, but I'm also very confident and know my ability. Yeah. And I felt like I should be at a higher level. And I felt that way from the start, even when I wasn't, when schools were looking at me. I knew what my ability was, but I just kept my head down and worked. So at that point, I just wanted to move up, just wanted to take my talent somewhere else and see, be tested, be challenged. So my dad and I have sat down and reached out to so many schools via email, and Shepard actually came back up. We emailed Shepard, and I was actually supposed to go on a visit there. And I remember the days specifically. This was 2016, April 9th, 2016. I was supposed to go to Shepard for a visit. And then, before that, I had hit up a friend of mine who was actually used to be recruited by Marymount. His name was Jason Jolly. He went to Fairmont State University. I think he graduated from Stonebridge out in Northern Virginia, Stonebridge High School. Real good guy. And I've seen him around as well, just different events and stuff like that. But, me and him, he was actually my shadow when he came on his little recruitment trip to Marymount. So me and him got close after, that, and, just kept tabs on each other. And I saw he was at Fairmont. So I said, hey, I'm looking to transfer schools, man. Like, what's Fairmont looking like? What's it like out there? And, I said, hey, if y'all got any spots, or, if I can get a workout in front of your coach, let me know. So I actually contact with Jason Jolly, like I said, was a guy that was being recruited by Marymount. And ended up going to Fairmont and everything. But him and I had that, good relationship and everything, kept tabs with each other. So I had hit him up, during this time that, I requested to transfer from Marymount, which I had to, that's another thing I had to do. I actually had to request transfer, by paper and, bring it to my coach at Marymount, which he wasn't very happy about. But, it is what it is. It was a decision that, I was kind of hesitant about because I'm a very loyal person, and, I didn't want to disappoint anybody. But, I sat down with my parents, and they were like, look, at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you. Excuse me. So, yeah. That, challenge myself and, really get myself out there. So, like I had mentioned before, I was supposed to meet with Shepard. I think it was April 9th. But this Fairmont trip ended up coming before that, for whatever reason. It happened before. So I ended up going to Fairmont for my visit, and I loved it there. I worked out in front of the coaches for 2 days. Had a great opportunity, to spend time with some of the guys on the team, get a feel for, obviously what the chemistry would be like if I was to play there, or, everything. So after the second day, they pulled me aside and said, hey, look, we really like what we see out of you. You can shoot the ball very well. you know, we have a spot for you if you want to come here. And mind you, my dad's GI Bill was still paying for school. So really, you know, fast forwarding to when I did go there, I was really a walk-on. So with that situation, you know, I basically was a walk-on because, you know, like I said, my dad's GI Bill was paying for school still. So, you know, they didn't have to worry about, you know, giving me an athletic scholarship, you know, my food, housing, everything. That's how, you know, that's what the GI Bill, you know, that opportunity is, you know, going in as a walk-on was just kind of a win-win situation for me, you know. Now Shepherd was still on the table, of course, but, you know, they didn't follow back up with me, you know, about anything. Like I still was supposed to have that scheduled, you know, visit and everything, but they never contacted me back. So
yeah,
I was just like, you know, at this point, Fairmont's really my only option. And like I said, it was, you know, I could see the talent with those, you know, with that team, you know, and, you know, adding me into that, like I could see myself into that system. And, you know, Fairmont being a very, you know, a run and gun type of team, you know, they think they average, if not 100, just under 100, very fast. So that was just the situation that, you know, I saw myself in, and I committed there. So I ended up spending part of the summer going to summer school, getting some courses in and everything, you know, and getting workouts in, you know, per NCAA rules and everything. So, you know, being able to bond with the guys and, you know, getting closer with them, you know, it was a great experience. And then, you know, going into that season, you know, we won the regular season title, and then we won the regional Elite Eight, the regional title. So we won 2 season titles within that season. We went 34-3. We started, I think preseason we were ranked number 20, and we ended up coming all the way to number 1 in the country. So we really, you know, we really persevered. You know.
Now tell me, how was that Final Four experience? That whole finals, the Final Four. How was that experience? Because that's a dream, man, right? That's the dream right before the NBA dream for most high school players. I don't care if it's D2, D3, D1, just to be in that Final Four. Like, what was that like?
Right. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I mean, and this is something that I've matured as a young athlete too, and tune into this, they hear it from another person's perspective. D2, and even in some cases D3, it don't matter, man. Like, dudes can hoop. And that year that I went into Fairmont, we had the opportunity to scrimmage against and it's a little off subject, but I'm at Akron University in Ohio.
Yeah.
Akron that year ended up winning their conference. Akron, and they're a D1 school. You know, very, very good team or whatever. And we beat them by 20 in their scrimmage. And we were a D2 team. So, you know, and we're not the only ones. I mean, our conference was the Mountain East Conference, you know, was one of the toughest ones in all of D2. You know, we got another team, West Liberty, that's been to the Final Four. You know, I think they've won a championship or two, or I'm not sure, but they're a team that's always in the tournament. Yeah. You know, another team, Willing Jesuit. Like, I mean, D2 it's got programs. So with that being said, it doesn't matter, D2, D1, you know, that Final Four experience, which was hosted in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, you know, where the Sioux Falls, the Miami Heat team, their D-League team plays, or I should say G-League now. Their team plays there. So, you know, we were in a whole arena, and it's just, the atmosphere was completely different. You know, this is March Madness. You know, so it's, you know, the media coverage, like, it really, you know, it felt like, you know, once we had, you know, won our first 2 games before, well, actually not first 2 games. We won our first game against, I think, Rollins College. That was before the semifinals game. That Final Four game was the game of my life. I ended up with 23, I think, off of 8 of 10 shooting. And every game was televised. Well, actually, just from the Final Four to the national championship game was televised on CBS. So, for me, I had, all my friends on a big screen, or, just watching me on TV, and I was able to, on that platform, perform at the level I did. And, I kind of made a name for myself because, as my coach has said at the end of the game in the interview, and then, as I was, playing through the game, showing my talents and everything, they were like, this guy came from a D3 school, nobody knew who I was, and just for me to be able to show out like that and, with that opportunity, that's something that not only I'll cherish for life, but, that was just a blessing in itself, to be able to do that, but the Final Four atmosphere was absolutely insane. I mean, it was crazy. And then even in the national championship game, although we lost, I mean, it was so intense. It was intense. And the team that we played against, Northwest Missouri State, which is a very great program, they were actually number 2 in the country. So it was number 1, us, and number 2 against number 2. And their school, I think, was only about 1,000 miles away or something, very close. Wow. So it was like a home game for them. And I'm talking about the whole crowd. Their colors are green and white. The whole crowd was green. Yeah. Like, you didn't see nothing but green. And it was just so loud. And the gym, I'm trying to depict it for you, but like the gym was similar to like the Barclays Center. So it's like kind of dark in the arena, but the lights are hitting the court. We lost. I enjoyed that experience to the fullest. So after that, went back home after the school year obviously ended for a little bit. Came back during the summer again, worked out with the team a little bit, did some more courses and everything, just like any other student athlete. We actually had a coaching change. So this coach, his name was Joe Mazzulla, former West Virginia point guard, played against John Wall, I think was in the Elite Eight or back in the tournament. So I had an opportunity to be coached by him, and gain a lot of knowledge from Joe, who was previously at the Maine Red Claws. He was one of the assistant coaches there for the G League team for the Boston Celtics. So he came into the program with a whole different spectrum of, knowledge and, just a lot of defensive, because Joe was a very, very big on defense. So I was able to learn a lot of, defensive tactics and strategies that, that the big leagues are using, like icing a ball screen, or, downing the player, or, just that kind of stuff. So it was a good experience to, to go from one system where we were running gun, this and that, to kind of playing similar to how the Celtics are, a lot of pick and roll, which is what the game consists of nowadays. So we didn't make it as far as that first year that I was at Fairmont, but still, I was, I didn't finish my senior year the way I wanted to, but, again, everything happens the way, it's supposed to. So after that, I actually signed with an agent. I believe it was about 2 weeks after the season had ended. So we're looking about mid-March or so. I had, signed with my first agent. I think his name was Mike Barron out of Germany. He was a FIBA agent based in Germany. So reached out to him, reached out to many agents. He reached back, provided my film and my resume and everything, started building that up. And, he was like, just be patient, just continue to work, stay healthy and everything. Just be ready. I can get you something. I like your game, all that.
The agent, right? Because, you might have some young athletes watching this here. What was the deciding factors into you selecting the agent? Was it just the first person that reaches back? Is it certain things you're looking to hear is what's the whole process of selecting or finding the right agent for you?
I would advise, so for me, like I said, my dad and I, you know, sat down many times, emailing different agents, you know, putting myself out there, trying to find someone, you know, the right person to, you know, represent me. And the thing that, and like, you know, for young athletes that are watching, that are trying to make it to the next levels, you have to be very careful about who you choose to represent you. Agents can be in it for money, you know, they can be in it, you know, just for different reasons that aren't beneficial for the player. So with Mike, I mean, we talked on the phone many times. I could just tell he was very proactive, and also, I mean, you have to do your research on agents too. You know, you can't just go with the first person. And he definitely wasn't the first person that, you know, reached back, but he definitely, his resume and his background matched what he was saying. You know, and he has a lot of clients that he's been able to place jobs for. So, you know, that was a no-brainer, especially after, like I said, after the talks and everything. And, you know, so he's had a lot of guards that he had signed in Germany or other neighboring countries. So we felt very comfortable going with them. So, you know, everything was going good. And now rewinding back, John Alexander, who I previously mentioned, he actually had hit me up, asking me if I wanted to go to the Philippines for an exposure type of, you know, little tour or something, you know, just for about a week or something, you know, playing in front of some teams over there, playing against, you know, Filipino teams and everything. So this was the first week of April. So my dad and it's important that my dad came, because, you know, it has ties with everything that happened. So my dad and I fly out there, you know, we meet up everything, getting our lodging. And during the whole trip, we were scheduled to play, I believe, 5 games. It was 5 games. First 2 games, I did very, very well.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many points I had, but, you know, I did my thing, you know, showed out. The third game was against this team that I believe was one of the top teams, one of the top, like, professional teams over there. I forgot what the name was. But it was like a younger team because, you know, my teammates were kind of like still in college. I was one of the older guys, even though I was only 22 at the time, I think. My teammates were still guys that were, you know, still in college and everything. I think one other one was a graduate, just like myself, but this was just exposure for us, you know, and an experience as well, you know, to go to the Philippines, which was an experience in itself, you know, being in a third world country, you know, so it was bigger than basketball, you know, experiencing, you know, that kind of environment, being thankful for what you do have, you know, it's big. So,
Indeed.
The third game, like I said, I believe it was the second quarter. I got an outlet pass. Was going downhill for a layup. I think there's like 1 or 2 defenders in front of me. None of them touched me. And as I gathered up, my knee buckled. Weird, and I've done this layup off of 2 so many times. Like, it was routine. Like, it ain't nothing. Nobody touched me. None of that. My knee buckled, and I just felt a weird feeling, and I just fell over. I mean, I was in pain. Like, I was screaming. It was just different, and I never experienced that. Luckily, like I said, my dad was with me this whole trip, so thank God I had him there, you know, with me. So it was, you know, and I didn't know what happened. You know, they didn't really have any doctors on hand to, you know, tell me or evaluate me. So it's funny because to keep my legs straight, they actually took a wooden plank, like a piece of wood, and put it behind my knee. This is gonna trip you out. They took a wooden plank and put it behind my knee and took some tape and taped it around so I could keep my legs straight. Night, I was in so much pain. We had to get some medication, which wasn't even I don't even think it was legal in the United States. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, it was some pain medication that just, I don't know. I had to go to some pharmacy and get it because I was hurting. So I ended up having to leave early, like 2-3 days early. I had to go back to the States and get it looked at. Mind you, I'm still in school this time to, go do this exposure thing. And it didn't affect my classes, which was good. My senior schedule was good for the second semester, so it wasn't any problem. Yeah. So we flew back 19 hours, 19 hours with this torn ACL, 19 hours. My dad, like I said, I thank God that he was with me because he was able to get me handicap service because I couldn't walk. He got us business class seats on the flights, so I was able to lay down fully on the flight. And even that process was excuse my French, it was hell because my knee was. I don't know if it was cabin pressure, but I was on the plane in so much pain, just wondering, like, man, like, what happened? Because this don't look good, So we flew back. We landed in Washington, D.C., ended up having to drive 3 hours to back to Fairmont in West Virginia. That's where I got evaluated that very day. I only got x-rays, though. I only got x-rays that day. They still didn't know. They just said, you got a little contusion around your knee, this and that. We're going to see if we can get you an MRI and this and that. So I had to wait for that. So in the meantime, I was going around school still in crutches. I was in crutches for a couple weeks. And I think it was 2 days later, I was able to get that MRI. And then that's when I found out, I tore my ACL. So my whole world felt like it just completely just fell apart. So that was
once you got those results, right? Did things change drastically from going from college to really having the opportunity to play pro? Like, far as people reaching out, staying in touch, the agent, like, what really happened? Because a lot of kids and parents don't really know, like, what happens when the kid gets injured, far as options.
Yeah. I'll give ACL thing. I was able to see a lot of people's true colors, and that's just me being real. I was able to see, who was really supportive of me. Obviously my family was really, there for me because they knew what I was going through, or at least they knew a sense of, I was going through, some tough times. I was preparing, for my overseas career. And then it's like when everything seems like it's, building up, it just, fell apart. So, that, and then with the agent part, obviously I had to tell my agent what happened. He was like kind of, upset, but at the same time, you can't control it. Something like that could happen at any given moment. Even if I signed a contract, I could have tore my ACL after my contract. So you just never know. But the communication with him ended up not being as consistent, which I somewhat understood, because, he's got other clients that he's got to check up on as well that are actually playing. So it's like, I understood. I just told him, hey, I'm going to be grinding on my end. I'm going to take this rehab. You ain't got to worry about me working hard to get back. I'm going to be back, So he stuck with me. He said, I'll continue to represent you. Just take care of yourself, get back. But like I said, the communication wasn't as consistent. He wasn't really checking up on me unless I really hit him up, and, that's just from what I was told, because, this is my first agent, so I don't really know. Right. But, other guys I would ask, be like, how often do you talk to your agent, this and that? And, they were like, man, my agent hits me, every couple of days or this and that. And I was like, man, my agent hasn't hit me up in a couple months, like, at least to check on me. So After a while, after a few months, once I was, getting, back and, moving again, because the rehab process in itself for, the ACL, this was my first major injury. And I basically had to learn how to walk again. That's just the real. Yeah, that was probably, I want to say the day after surgery, was probably one of the lowest points in my life. But yeah, this whole surgical process. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so what, cause you back on the floor today. I've seen the footage. I see you back working. What lift you back up? Cause you said that was a very, very dark experience, and I totally understand. What was that thing that got you back though to where you are now in the gym, back on your journey? What or who? Because sometimes it's special people, in our lives that help us, that motivate us to get back to where we're trying to go. So you want to go into that?
Yeah, and yeah, no, absolutely, and I mean I have to go into it. If I'm gonna be completely honest with you, that was the power of God, man, for real. That was God.
Amen.
Long story short, I've grown up in the church, so I've always, believed in God, always, I always knew God, but I'll be transparent and say that during my college years, I somewhat fell off. I was so caught up in the college life, not so much, we all, we're all adults, I went to a couple parties here and there, but I wasn't much of a partier. I always worked hard, always stayed in the gym, but it's a part of college. It's a part of life, and college is supposed to be, your, so to speak, most exciting years or whatever. So, but even, just being so caught up in the student athlete life, relationships, this and that, I lost focus. I didn't have my priorities straight. And I can admit that now because, I can look back and see where I was at, and honestly, I took the whole ACL thing because before I got right, like, man, like, why did this have to happen? Like, I was just about to do the XYZ, like everything was going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I've matured to see that it was God's way of saying, hey, like, I love you, but you don't have your priorities straight right now. Like you've lost your focus on what's important, and I should be in the forefront. You know what I'm saying? Sure. That's how I really took it. I took that as God slowing me down and being like, look, you need to not only get your priorities straight, but you need to, look around you and, because even on a personal side, there's people in my corner that I didn't need to be dealing with, like relationships, this and that. And that was consuming me. And like I said, I took the whole ACL thing as, God slowing me down and like, look, just go ahead and make a whole 360. Let's fix you up real quick. You know what I'm saying? Before you, continue on this path that you want. Because like I said, my mindset wasn't where it needed to be. Just straight up, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So like I said, I mean, that wasn't nothing but the power of God, man. That's the only person I can really give, credit to. And for me, I mean, the physical part of the rehab was never going to be a problem. I've always been a hard worker. It was tough. Don't get me wrong. It was hell. There was days that, I cried, and I don't have any shame in saying it. I cried myself to sleep, man. Like I was really going through a lot, pain wise and just frustration. Not being able to, do everyday things without assistance, I don't have to go into detail, but that's hard. When you're stripped of being able to do simple everyday life things because you just physically aren't able,
right.
It makes you, realize a lot. So, like I said, I had to restart everything. I had to learn how to really kind of properly walk again, with the whole leg. And that was just baby steps. Like I went from walking to running motions again, you know, jogging, light jogs, medium jogs, and then really running, you know, and then getting into explosive jumping, you know, cutting, all that stuff. I was able to, you know, it was such a blessing because I was able to not only, and during this time, you know, I had found a great church out here in Memphis that I've been going to consistently. You know, and that in itself, I found a special connection with that church. You know, and it had me like, man, I want to, after the first service, I was like, man, I got to go back, because everything that pastor's saying, like, I can apply that in my life and it's speaking to me. So it's like, you know, I'm hungry for more, like, you know, this is where I need to be. So it was a blessing to be able to grow spiritually. And then also, you know, I was already in good shape and everything, but I've come out of this ACL so much better than my old self, you know, on all aspects, you know, physical, mental, you know. God helped me with the mental part, you know. Like I said, there was, you know, times that I was really in some, you know, dark stuff. You know, and ultimately I just feel like God's the one that's able to allow you to get through that stuff, you know. So like I said, physical took care of itself. You know, I got back in 9 months, but during that 9 months, I was able to, you know, build my relationship with God and Christ, and just, you know, because, you know, that's important, obviously.
Oh, I agree, man.
So a couple more months to rough on the court. And then once that happened, I reached back out to my agent, let him know that, you know, I've been cleared, I'm ready to go. He advised me to go to this exposure event in Las Vegas. So that was going to be my first, you know, little thing to show that I was healthy, which that's what he wanted. He was like, look, you know, now that you're back, you've been off the market for a year, you know, you need to go and prove that you're healthy, and, you know what I'm saying, that you're good.
Yeah.
So I went out there. I think it was 3 days maybe. I think ended up averaging 19 over the weekend, ended up averaging 19. You know, did good numbers, and also was able to show that I can, you know, not just be a shooter, which is something that a lot of people know me for. And, you know, something that I did at Fairmont, being an off ball, you know, player coming off of screens. I didn't really play the one, you know, and I've never really played the one all my life, you know. Even at Pilates,
Right.
You know, we had Mike Ash playing the point guard. I wasn't playing, I was playing the two, you know. So
right.
That's something that I was able to, you know, showcase, even with it being, you know, my first time playing 5-on-5 actual competitive up and down basketball since, you know, my surgery. I get my name out there. So that's really been the journey. I know I gave you a lot just now, but that's what it's been. So,
hey man, I love it, brother. So right now, like, what's next, you know, for DeAndre DJ Stocktman? What's the next phase, you know, as I see the next phase is loading, right? So
yeah, yes sir.
What's the next phase?
Man, honestly, I think the proper answer, and it might be a weird answer, but the next phase is whatever God has in store for me. And that could be basketball. In the meantime, I've been working a government job. I've been able, and that's another thing, I've been able to, you know, get a secret clearance that can last me 10 years, that I can get any government job just about, you know. You know, because like I said, you know, basketball ain't going to last forever. You know, you got to have a backup plan. And that's something that I want younger viewers to, you know, whoever tunes into this, I want them to understand that, you know. I was in your shoes, like, you know, and we get so caught up in just thinking about basketball, and that's our love. But,
for sure,
you know, man, like, it could end at any moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not what we ain't going to do it for the rest of our life. It's a privilege. It's truly a privilege to play basketball, and especially at a professional level. And I know I should have a professional contract by now, but at the same time, one is the times we're in. The times we're in are unique right now, but two, it's a business. It's a real market to try to get into. You got guys that are trying to go pro all over the world. You know what I mean? And it's competitive. So you gotta have a backup plan just in case that doesn't work. So I've realized that, and then I've matured, and made that switch of, having a backup plan, because, I can't, while I'm grinding some type of income, because I can't be relying on, my parents or whatever the case is, you know what I mean? Like, they're here to help me, and God knows I'm, blessed for that. But at the end of the day, I gotta make my own moves, and I gotta have my own money. So the real basis of that is just having that plan B. You gotta have a backup plan. Got to.
For sure. And what degree did you leave Fairmont State with?
I ended up getting a degree in political science, a minor in national security intelligence. So a lot of people ask me, are you into politics? Not necessarily into politics, but at the same time, it was something I've always kind of been interested in, like government growing up as a kid, like social studies and like all that stuff always used to be my favorite subject. So I guess it kind of has a tie with that. And then I guess also, with my dad, being in the military, my mom being a government employee, a lot of things weren't, it wasn't anything foreign to me. Like, it was a lot of things I was familiar with. So, yeah. And then it's a degree at the end of the day. I mean, it's something that can get you a job. Even though I'm a poli-sci major, a lot of jobs they require a 4-year degree, from somebody at least, if you want a decent job. So it's something that I have on my resume, to be able to, get me something. So education is important. It is. I mean, it's, it's important.
Yeah, I agree. As a life coach, I always tell people education, is going to help you to paint pictures that your eyes can't see. So education should be the leader anyway. Next to God should be education, because education is going to open your mind up. So
exactly.
So DJ, for those out there, that want to get in touch with you, that's looking for a combo guard, where could you be reached?
I mean, you could reach me at my Instagram. My Instagram is DJ Got the Strap, nickname that I got a while back. DJ and then Got the Strap. I've got Twitter. I think it's 2 underscores, capital DJ S3, I believe. I'm on Twitter for more like for other reasons. It's kind of, I like to watch a lot of basketball blogs and stuff like that. Okay. So I'm not really on there as much, but then I can be reached my email, DJ Stocktman, the number 3 at gmail.com. Or, I mean, all my stuff is on YouTube. Anybody can access my videos going back from Global Squad, seeing my Pilates, videos, college, all that stuff. I could be reached anyway, for real. I mean, I'm here at anybody's disposal that, is either, whether it's somebody that's looking for a player or even somebody that's looking for someone to talk to or needs advice. I'm always, I have an open ear to, whoever, and I like to inspire and motivate people and, give people advice. I'm young, but I've experienced things and I feel like I have, a good amount of knowledge on certain things. So, I like to help people as much as I can. I'm very selfless in that aspect. So.
Indeed, brother. Indeed. So, DJ, man, time is precious, man. I'm truly appreciative that you gave me this time, to speak with you, to hear your story, and just to catch up, man, because it's been so long, since those early morning night rides, man. But man, truly appreciate you. We're gonna stay in touch, and
absolutely,
man, thanks for being on the D Oaks show.
No, thank you for having me on the D-Oak show, man. I appreciate it. Again, I thank you for the, opportunity to be on this platform, and hopefully somebody is able to take this, whether it's similar to their life or whatever. I hope they are able to take it and, that it's beneficial for them. And I love what you're doing, and I look forward to you doing work with other people, because this is something good, and it's good for people, especially during these seasons that we're going in. It's going to uplift somebody. So I appreciate you just considering me to even be a part of it. So thank you. And I'm glad we got to be able to catch up, and we'll definitely stay in touch for sure.
Indeed. Hey, listen, y'all, this has been powered by Stevens Vending. That's Stevens Vending. If you're looking for vending services in the DMV area, that's stevensvending.com.